What a man.
Earl Fatha Hiens is a jazz musician, arguably the greatest still alive. This Sunday it's his birthday, his 70th, but he still plays concerts all over the world and regularly does 4 or 5 hours a night in clubs, like the one where we made this film.
Hey, hiya, my boy.
Hey.
Yeah,
How you doing?
fine. Everything is fine. The rest of the guys getting
No,
in?
you're the first one here.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, come on back.
All right, I'm on my way back there now.
Come on back and sit down.
I thought
Get
I'd
some
get...
coffee, okay?
Well, you got some coffee made?
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
That's
always
good.
got a pot of coffee.
How you got the room set up, all right?
Okay, take a look.
Oh, that's
What you think
good.
of
Yeah,
it?
well, my God, I want cream and sugar in that coffee.
Okay,
Huh?
all right.
You know how you made it last time, wasn't so hot. Man, get
Well,
good and hot.
I'll be on now.
All right.
Go on and
Okay.
take a look around.
Hiens was a professional piano player before the word jazz was even invented, and at 70 he's now outlived all the great names he played with. Louis Armstrong, Fats Waller, Charlie Parker, Duke Ellington.
Take it in. Nobody home.
The thing that Hiens has always been supremely good at is improvising, at taking a tune and changing it and reworking it and building on it as he plays, so that it comes out quite different each time. What Hiens enjoys is the excitement, the bravery, the risk of jumping headfirst into a tune and then, in public, having to work his way out again.
played from here, the way I felt is the way I always play. The way I feel. If I felt it should be a double augmented chord, I'll make it. If I feel it should be a minor seventh, I'll make it. To whatever feels good to me as far as my ear is concerned. Telephone. Huh? Take the receiver off. What do you mean take the receiver off? Huh?
No.
I don't
Dave
mind
wants to
it.
come back. You gonna be here 2 o'clock?
I don't know, yeah.
Sometimes you get cancellations.
I had a guy last night, after I come off the first set, and he says, where's Earl, Father Hiens? Just like that. I said, I am he. He said, come on, he's dead. I had to look at him. I said, am I dead?
Yeah.
He said, you're not Father Hiens. I said, he said, Jesus Christ, I heard Father Hiens, you know how far back? I said, I don't care how far back you
The
go.
man this morning knows you from 1940 here.
And so I told the public that. I said, it's the first time I've been approached like this. I said, I'm supposed to be dead. After, and everybody laughed like the devil out there. So when I went back over there, he said, I apologize. He said, I said, well, and he said, well, I just can't believe it. And the girl, she was sitting there with him, you know. She said, I can't believe it.
Yeah.
I said, well, because he looks like he's 90. That don't say I have to be here. But it made me kind of warm, you know.
In the 30s, Hiens had one of the greatest of all the big bands. But after the war, as jazz became more and more intellectual, Hiens virtually gave up music altogether. Then, in 1964, he was brought back to New York, and since then, he's never stopped.
You're not ready yet?
Yes, we are.
Oh, I was just fooling. All right. This is a little number that I wrote a year or so ago. They didn't believe I could do it. Neither did I. They didn't believe I could prove it. Neither did I. Until I made a drastic change and started my life anew. I found that I could make the grade, and that's when my confidence grew. Still, they didn't believe I could make it. Neither did I. I had to shake and break it, and boy, did I try. Just destroy your fears and doubts, my friends. You need no disguise. Just say if anyone else can do it, so can I.
Oh, when you improvise, how do you do it? What do you think of before you begin?
Well, say for instance this particular tune. You have your chord structures already written out, and the melody is there. And naturally the composer tries to write the melody as near to the chord structure that he has. And in doing so, I look at the chord structures after I learn the melody. And then I'm always 2 or 3 measures ahead so that I know just what I'm running into. For instance, when I'm playing this one here, I know the next chord is a C chord. So what I do this, I know that there are several relative chords. You see what I mean? I'm going into a C minor chord and right into C, or I go into a G 7th chord, which I noticed before, and then coming back to G. Now when I go ready to go back to C, I can make anything there. A minor, C minor, a D 7th, an A flat 9th, G chord. You see what I'm talking about? You have to have a photographic mind, so to speak, when you're making improvisations of a tune before you get to the chord. I don't know whether all pianists have that same format or not, but that's been mine ever since I started to playing, because I always did like to know exactly what's hidden. That's the reason why I never did like to read a book, because I always want to get to the end first. See? So I like to know what the story is all about. Oh, likewise with this. Now, usually when I get a tune, I kind of run over it for a while and just fool around, and then I photograph all these chords, and then I go for myself from then on.
Hiens first made recordings 52 years ago. To keep the wax soft, you had to make them in a steam room, stripped off to your underwear.
That's cute to hear that.
But it was the records he made with Louis Armstrong in 1928 that became the real classics of jazz.
Chicago. I never saw Louis before. And at the Musicians Union in Chicago, they had a union there where all the musicians used to hang out. In fact, that was the playhouse of all the youngsters, and a lot of the young men used to want to blow.
Here's your coffee. Red hot.
There's something. Where you want me to sit on the piano?
Oh, sit on the piano.
All right, I'll sit up here then. That's all right. You don't mind.
Just don't drop it down in there now.
Well, no,
You just had that thing
I hope
tuned up
nobody
for
get.
you last
I hope
week.
nobody gets musical. You know.
You better get musical this afternoon now.
Oh, I'll try.
Yeah. Don't drop it down in them.
Okay, well, I'm glad you're good. It's good you're looking around like that. Did you put sugar in it?
Everything's in there.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I was talking.
I didn't put a touch in there for you, though.
Okay.
I think it's too early for a touch now.
Yeah. You don't mind. You sort of interrupted me. I was talking about Chicago. You know. You know about Chicago?
No, I don't know a thing about Chicago.
Oh well, if you hang around there, you learn a few things.
No, I'm not going to hang around though.
Oh, you're not?
No, I've got
Okay.
work to do.
Oh, that's fine.
Yeah.
That's good.
Looks like you packed the house here last night.
Well, that's what we're here for.
That's a good piano, though, isn't it?
Very good.
Yeah.
What do you call it? Piano?
I call it piano.
That's pretty
I'm from
good.
Philadelphia.
No, you're not. If you say piano.
I am from Philadelphia. Originally.
And you say piano?
I say piano. What do you say? Piano?
Piano.
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 Well, I say piano.
Yeah, that's just a little contrast. It's a sort of southernish like, you know.
No.
Isn't it from around
Well,
Georgia? Georgia?
South Philly.
Oh.
I wasn't really born in South Philly.
You're getting worse. I just longer
Then I moved to West Philly. Well, you're from where?
Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
All right, same thing.
Well, in the same state.
Right, yeah.
I'm just down the road a piece.
That's right, up the road.
No, I said down the road. You said up the road.
Well,
Have you ever seen the map of Pennsylvania?
Is Pittsburgh?
Pittsburgh sits down here. Philadelphia sits up there.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
It's below? Down?
Yeah,
I thought it was above.
No.
No? Hey, I'm going to put some more coffee in for you.
All right.
Okay.
That's
See you
good.
later.
All right. See you later. Oh, pardon me before I was so interrupted there.
You were telling us about how you first met Louis, and
Well,
when
we
you played
met
together.
in Chicago, and so Louis says, "Well, what do you play?" I said, "I play piano." He said, "Why didn't you sit in when we was playing over there?" I said, "Oh, I didn't want to interfere with you people. I thought you had something private going on, you know." And so he said, "No, we didn't." With his foggy voice, he always had that foggy voice. And then when Louis started playing, I was started playing, and then Louis looked at me so peculiar, and so I said, "Am I making the wrong chords?" And he says, "No," he says, "but your style is like mine." You know, so I said, "Well," I said, "I wanted to play trumpet," and I said, "but it used to hurt me behind my ears because my father played cornet." And I said, so I played on the piano what I wanted to play on trumpet. He said, "No, that's my style. That's what I like." And here I became very close friends then.
It was Hiens who freed the piano from the rhythm section and first gave it a voice of its own.
Whenever it hit a chord, and I was curious and wanted to know what the chord was made of. And I used to execute that way, see? Say, for instance, I'm doing this. Same thing, see? So, enjoying that, I would then begin to play like the other instruments. But back in those days, we didn't have what they call the amplification. So the singers used to use megaphones, and the instruments were just blowing on their own. And when it would come to the piano, they were mostly upright pianos. They didn't have any grands at that time. That was to our, for us to use as far as advancement in bands. It was an upright. And so when they give me a solo, I'm playing single fingers like I was doing it quite often. In those great big halls, they could hardly hear me. So I had to think of something so I could cut through this big band. So I started using what they call trumpet style, which was octaves. Now like this. Well, before we're doing, but they couldn't hear it. So when I started around, they could hear me out front. And that's why they call it trumpet style piano. And that's what changed the style of piano playing at that particular time.
You ever see him look down at the keys? Seldom. Right? I watched him yesterday here during rehearsal. It looks like he's looking into the end of his pipe. You know, see if it's still smoking.
Let me see. I'd like to sort of do... I don't like my pipe. No, I haven't got my... So don't forget about it. Memories of You, a lovely tune by U.B. Blake.
Do you know who's playing here?
I didn't pay any attention to it.
Earl Father Hiens. Would you know?
No, I never heard of him.
There you go. See? I told you he was too young, Charlie. You don't know Earl Father Hiens. He's too young. If you ask him if he knows the Beatles, yes. How about Monty Alexander? No? No. See that? I knew you were too young for it.
Who's going to be down here?
Pearl Bailey. You know of her?
Yeah, I've heard her.
You've heard of her? You should have heard of her. She's on television every day this week.
December 1929, Hiens took a band into Chicago's vast Grand Terrace Club and stayed for 12 years. Their shows went out on radio, and Earl Hiens became the most broadcast band in America.
And at that time, our country was, everybody was dancing. And that's the reason for the big band was because of some of these places that we would play didn't have amplification, and you had to enlarge your band. You had to get 4 trumpets and 3 trombones and 4 or 5 saxophones to be heard. That's the reason for the big band. It wasn't necessary to have it because you can get some of the same effects out with a 10-piece band as you can of a 18-piece band. People began to tune in that little station because they'd heard so much about the Grand Terrace that they just wanted to find out through curiosity what was happening. The next thing you know, we began to get people from what we call the Gold Coast. And that was the people from way over on the north side of Chicago that had an awful lot of money. It used to be limousines with this chauffeur sitting out there 2 blocks long.
It was against the law to sell a bottle of whiskey or beer. So they bootlegged it. And then your speakeasy started. In other words, you would close this place. I mean, they closed the place. And then, so what happens? They turn it into a speakeasy. You had to know Joe to get in, right? So you still drank the same thing, except the racketeers come in on it.
One night I was sitting in the kitchen and a guy comes back there with 3 guys, and his name was Fusco. He was a lieutenant for Al Capone. And he says to Fox, who was the manager and the owner, his name was Ed Fox, he says, Ed, we come in to take 25% of the club. So Ed said, who's we come out? What do you mean? I says, I don't need no, he says, well, you have to have protection. He says, I don't need no protection. I've been here 2 years. I'm doing all right. He said, what you have to have protection. There's other gangs going to come in here and say the same thing, and we don't want that to happen to you. So he says, well, I don't want no protection. He says, and you gangsters can get out of my place, and over one word passed on another until finally he said, well, you got 2 nice boys. I know you like your boys, don't you? He said, well, what do you mean? Because he couldn't talk good English. He used to say, what do you mean, and Pennsylvania, and all that, you know. So he said, what are you talking about? He says, well, he says, you like your children, you like your boys, and we'd like to see you keep them. Al came in there and one night and called the whole band and show together and said, now, we want to let you know our position. He says, we just want you people to tend to your own business. We'll give you all the protection in the world. He said, we want you to be like the 3 monkeys. You hear nothing, you see nothing, and you say nothing. And that's what we did. And I used to hear many things, many of the things that they were going to do, but I never did tell anyone. And sometimes the police used to come over, looking for a fall guy used to come in and say, Earl, what were they talking about? I said, I don't know. So you were sitting right there. I said, yeah, I sit on the bus too, but I don't pay attention to what people are saying. So I said, no, you're not going to pick me, because they had a habit of putting the pictures of these different people that would bring information in the paper. And the next day you find them out there in a lake somewhere, swimming down there with some chains attached to their feet and all that, you know what I mean?
like to hear the old man talk, though. Don't you, Charlie, though? I call him Big Daddy. He's interesting, though, to listen to him. You know, going back to that speakeasy days when he played in those speakeasies. And those, what did he call it? Hotels or nightclubs that he played in? Yeah, where they served the liquor in the coffee cup. Yeah. And Showtime. Yeah.
To play is that I'm an explorer. I might use that expression. I'm looking for something all the time, and oftentimes I get lost. And most times people that are around me an awful lot know when they see me smiling, they know I'm lost. I'm trying to get back. But it makes it much more interesting because then you do things that surprise yourself, and after you hear the recording, it makes you a little bit happy too. Say, "Oh, I didn't know I could do that," which you do if you're doing a lot of what you call fooling around and trying to find out just how many different chords can go into the next passage. You know, and while doing that, if you're a little doubtful. Now, when I was playing classical music, I wouldn't dare get away from what I'm reading. If you notice, all of the symphonic musicians, they have played some of those classical tunes for years, but they wouldn't vary from one note. They constantly, and every time they play, they have to have the music. So that's why some classical musicians, it's very difficult for them to try to learn how to play jazz. the lyrics have a lot to do with my playing. I mean, this is a guy explaining to his girlfriend, what the hell, Jesus Christ. I mean, I hear a lot of things, but that's not true. So when you're saying that to a person, you're saying that sincerely, and I try to get that feeling on the piano. Almost like I'm trying to talk. I try to get that. I don't know. I can't explain it, Charlie. I can't explain it. I don't know. I just love this. I want to play that tonight.
Is that on?
Partial.
They're all partial.
Yeah.
None of them light up as much as they should. Yeah, you going to keep these on?
Over the last few years, almost all the great names of the jazz age have died, including Earl Hiens' two great friends, Duke Ellington and Louis Armstrong.
Charlie, how about his theme song? Lloyd's theme song.
client. 3 performances this evening. That's right. Be no problem at all. Be a pleasure to take care of it. Thank you.
One more show and one more time, as they always say. Looking for a good audience.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, I would like to give my conception of a number I've been associated with over a period of years from the Grand Terrace Cafe called the Boogie Woogie on the St. Louis Blues.